This is the What's Next podcast, using the number one platform where I invite creatives to share their journeys and give us a depiction of their visions. Most importantly, the last question I'll ask is, what's next?
Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Dear John, the iconic legend Quincy Jones said, "To know where you came from makes it easier for you to get where you're going." Sean Diddy Combs said, "Everyone has challenges and lessons to learn. We wouldn't be who we are without them." If 2018 and the last 6 years taught you something, it's that anything is attainable with the right focus and determination. Continue to build. Continue to promote your vision. Continue to inspire creativity and make more creatives. In closing, Nas said, "No idea is original. There's nothing new under the sun. It's never what you do but how it's done. The first chapter of your vision's movements is done. However, you're still a visionary." Peace and blessings. John Ross.
Yo, it feel like 95, Sachi on my body, Biggie, Jigga, Puffy, all that ballin' is a hobby, and I'm wildin' in my body.
Houston, Texas, salutations, and welcome back to episode number 36 of the What's Next podcast. A production is Still Visionary Inc. My name is John Ross Dike the First, and before we get started with the episode, I want to introduce my social media handles, so I don't disrupt the flow of the conversation when I get to that point. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at John Ross Dike and still_visionary. If you would, connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my fan page on Facebook, and visit my website at stillvisionary.com. Behind me, directly behind me, you'll see my paraphernalia. I got the What's Next hoodie. I got the Where You From hoodie, the What's Next t-shirt. This is an episode t-shirt. And I've got a Still Visionary Inc. t-shirt right behind me. Up here, I got Still Visionary Inc. apparel as well. Listen, I put this up here for one and one reason only. You need to cop something, all right? I appreciate the love and support, man. Go ahead and cop something. I produce my own t-shirts as well as this podcast as well, man, and I'm looking to produce your t-shirt. So if you don't have a t-shirt guy, you need to holler at me, stillvisionary.com. and or still_visionary on Instagram and Twitter. This is episode 36. My sweet baby boy, John Ross Dike II. Rest in peace to you. I love you too. He lived 36 days. So episode 36 has been in my mind for the longest to come on here and basically by myself talk to you all and catch you up to date with what's going on with the podcast. So as you know, I went to LA Labor Day weekend this year, and I've referenced that a lot because that was a very pivotal time for the podcast and myself. Shout out to my wife, Kizzy Danae Farmer Dike, for giving me the blessings to go and clear my mind and continue this marathon that is my podcast. So I went to LA and I hung out with my homegirl, Asia Munns, who, by the way, also has a podcast called Stories and Poems. I am producing that podcast. So if you get a second, you can go to SoundCloud, Apple Music, or Spotify, look up her name and follow, subscribe on that podcast. Or you can go to my website. It's right on the right-hand side, and you can stream her podcast from my website. I hung out with Asia, Kalea, shout out to you, Janae, shout out to you, and my homegirl, my homie, Virgo sister, Ruby Lee, shout out to you. So I went out to LA and I talked to those phenomenal African-American women and basically got their journeys. I think that it was a pivotal thing that I needed to get done for the podcast because I needed to, like my man Phil said in episode 17, was it 17, I think? Yeah, I think it might have been 17. back at it again. Now streaming on my website and SoundCloud and iTunes, Spotify as well. But like my man Phil said, I need to look to get creatives all over. So I look to try to do that LA run again next year. If I can get them on again, I would love to get them on again, and as well as the other artists that I missed while I was out there in LA. But I came back, and after episode 31, networking, like I talk about with Julie P. White in episode 35, now streaming on the website. Networking got me the opportunity to now move the podcast to the White Room at the Pentagon, live from the Pentagon. My man Edric, we sat down and we chopped it up about Three making or creating a recording studio. So all the artists out there that I bring on this podcast, I want to do the podcast over there, right? Networking is big, it's key, and I'm finding that out every day. By the way, I didn't say this. Guys, I really don't have much to say on this podcast, right? But I got to continue on dropping an episode. So I didn't want to go a week without dropping an episode, especially seeing the run that I've had as of recently. So I was supposed to start my timer for 20 minutes, and my 20 minutes has started. So it's really about 15 left, right? So I set the timer for 15 minutes. I'm not going to be long today because I want to get you to the game, all right? The Astros, when you see this tomorrow, the Astros will be playing game number 6 of the World Series back home. So what a treat. You get this podcast and we win the World Series, right? But like I was saying, networking is key, and I want to continue to move on and move forward with the podcast, and also highlight another Black-owned business. This episode here, I'm shooting my father's office. His name is Kenneth Dike, CPA, and he does taxes. If you need IRS representation, bookkeeping, payroll services, if you need somebody to advise you on your taxes, you need to contact him at Kenneth O. Dike, CPA. The number here is 713-661-9982. And his website is kodcpa.com. And you can email him at kenneth@kodcpa.com. But he's given me the blessings to record here in his studio, in his office, rather. And, my father used to be here. Pardon me. My father used to be here a lot when I was coming up, and a lot of it was the fact of him being a small business owner, but a lot of it too was this place, though quiet, you can fill your mind with this place, right? It's blank, and I know some people might think it's really dull, but blank walls, you can paint what you want to paint. You can paint your soliloquies. You can paint your vision on these walls. So I wanted to come here. It was quiet. I didn't want to disturb my wife tonight. I wanted to come here, and if this is the last episode of the 2019 year that I do by myself, I wanted to do it here in this spot before we move on to the White Room. So listen, man, the podcast is going well, and I owe it to you. I appreciate your streams. I appreciate the constant likes that I get, even though I'm dropping, and I'm focused on dropping only that. I appreciate the love and support that I've been getting, and I just ask that it continues, man. Let somebody else know about this podcast, man. You know what I mean? If you have creatives, just shoot that message to me, man, because I want as many people to come on here. I want to continue to grow this brand of a podcast, and I want to continue to hear people's stories. That's what this podcast is all about, getting people's stories and, just looking and listening to where they came from, right? We have a few versions. You can stream it and watch it, or you can listen to it on SoundCloud, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, man. So we got a variety of things for people. And on that podcast, really, we're up to 35 now. This is episode 36, so I don't think that there's a podcast that you won't learn something from, right? If you, I got a couple of authors on the podcast that have been on there, a couple of chefs, cooks. I've got a couple of writers, MCs, overall, just a whole plethora of people that have come onto this podcast and bestowed gems. And I think that you're not doing yourself a justice if you haven't streamed my podcast, at least one episode. You got one episode in you, right? And you'll see. You'll be the judge of it. If it's not your flavor, it's not your flavor. But if it is your flavor, you need to enjoy this, keep coming back for more, and give it to somebody else so that they can enjoy it too. So, what song's on my mind? Oh man. I woke up this morning, I put a smile on my face because I knew I was gonna do this podcast. I knew. Um but so the song that's on my mind right now is You're the Man by Nas. I'm a big Nas head. You're the Man by Nas, and also by Joe Budden, Survivor, right? Those two tracks, man, are just, if I had to really sit down and think about the tracks that I'm thinking about right now, Survivor, I listened to on the way here. And on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, I feel like I'm the man. So episode 36, like I said, is dedicated to my baby boy, man. Rest in peace. You've taught me so much. And I can't say that it's been an easy transition from not having you here, but I'm just grateful for what you've given me, you and your perfection in spite of it all. I'm grateful that you gave me that, man. And I'm just grateful to have been your father. I'm grateful to have you on my skin. I'm grateful to just continue to talk about you because that's what I will do, man. I wrote on SoundCloud that the only person that I want to do this for can't reap the benefits of it. You know what I mean? So I'm just grateful of your life and your existence, and just continue to watch over me and your mother. But listen, it Thanksgiving season is coming, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm fully locked and loaded to drop episodes every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, right? Until further notice, man. No matter what, man, consistency, what everybody's been telling me that they're seeing in me, consistency. I appreciate it, man. It's a hard job to do. It's hard to be consistent, man. But when it becomes who you are, you gotta keep pushing forward and finding no way to make excuses on what you gotta get done, right? And that goes for more than just this podcast and my life. It goes for a lot of things too, which I'll bring up in a second. But in this grind, man, you can look back and see where you've come from, but I really feel like, and I know that my 15 minutes ain't started yet. You know what I'm saying? It ain't started yet, and I'm just ready to see what the future has in store. You know what I mean? When I get behind it and in front of this lens to produce some of these movies that I've written, and you're gonna see, man, what it's all for. And so I just am appreciative of this time and space. I'm appreciative of the opportunity to continue to be a creative and have been given that gift by the Lord upstairs. And I'm just grateful that you're rocking with me. So this is what I want you to do. I need you to give this podcast to somebody else. Most importantly, give this podcast to somebody else. Tell them, hey, you know a kid. His name is John Ross Dike the First. He's from the southwest side of Houston, Texas. He went to Booker T. Washington. He's a graduate of U of H. He's a Freemason under the watchful eye of Kings of Israel number 19. Shout out to my worst. Shout out to my senior warden. Shout out to my junior warden. Shout out to my lodge and grand lodge. Shout out to my chapter. Tell them that you know a guy who does a podcast and it's pretty damn good. You know what I'm saying? Just shout out to them and just give that to them. Give it to them for Thanksgiving or Black Friday or whatever, man. Just give it to them. It's free of charge. Support my paraphernalia, man, and just be on the lookout because I'm coming. I'm coming. It's like Russ said a couple of years ago when he was playing against the Warriors. I'm coming. I want to take the moment, and I want to take a moment of silence to acknowledge a student of mine that just passed away. And a colleague of mine who passed away from Waltrip High School. Rest in peace to Deshaun Jackson, gone but never forgotten. Rest in peace to Kate Atkins, gone and never forgotten, man. mental illness is a serious matter, man. And if you need help, I suggest that you talk to somebody. Please talk to somebody. But to them, man, I want to say rest in peace to them. You are gone but never forgotten, and you will always be remembered. Today is October the 28th, 2019, and we have 64 days left in the 2019 year. What I hope to accomplish in 64 days is, of course, continuing to drop a podcast every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, right? But most importantly, I want to make it easier to access the podcast for everybody that already knows that I do the podcast. So I can worry about finding people that don't know that I do a podcast, right? So I'm working on that idea right now, as well as a few other things that I need to get accomplished before the 2019 year ends, so that way the last episode of this year will fall on December the 31st, right? It's going to count for the last episode of this year and the first episode of 2020, right? So I'm going to drop an episode that Tuesday, but the next day will be the new year. So just be in mind of that. So, December the 31st, 2019, I want to make sure that I have an update as to what I've been working on. And I know that you're going to enjoy that. Let me see how much time I have left because, I got 5 minutes left. I said I wouldn't go talk your ear off. So make sure, and my editor, she was on episode number 34. I Live, We Live, and she also did episode number 18, Miseducation. She does a blog. Her blog's name is Tempest Lives. You should check it out, tempestlives.com. We're both educators, so her blog is really, really good. It's a self-help blog, and it's for the women out there. It's for anybody, but it's more especially for the women. You should check that blog out and let her know what you think about the blog. Her name is Tempest Lives. Her website is tempestlives.com, and you can find her on Instagram and on Twitter, on at Tempest Lives. Listen, that's all I have, right? Wanted to make sure that I'm consistent. That's all I have. So what's next for me is me becoming a better husband. The same allure and the same fascination and addiction I have to this, I want to become better at that. You know what I'm saying? As a creative, your energy goes into that. That's all you can think about. That's all you can do. You're trying to make that better, and then other things fall off, right? And I'm lucky to have such a great woman in my wife that she hasn't up and left me. But I want to become a better husband, man, and whatever it takes. And that's what I look to. That's what's next for me. Most importantly, that's what's next for me. So, Houston, Texas, man, I do what I do for myself so that I can prove that I can do it for others. Peace and blessings.
Yo, it feel like 95, Sachi on my body, Biggie, Jigger, Puffy, all that ballin' is a hobby. And I'm wildin' in my wallies, and them valleys, no Pilates. More wet, get you more wet. Nah, that's these Spumante. My crystal ball, I see crystal, I crystal y'all with that. I saw the sign like Ace of Spades, that Ace of Spades get cracked me like cheers to the money guys, the Willie niggas who buy them bottles, and then they spill these liquors. Yo, salute my dude. I see you, dawg. 5 bottles, 1 dick. Why I need 2 bras? I know I'm out of line, but love is shower time. You know it rose rain when your cloud is 9. Get off that high ass hussy. This a private party. Been on my dick too long. Your breath on private party. You gon' be nice and naughty. These walls on priceless Audi. This the upper crust. Fuck is up. Over and done. Overdose. Yes, we did it again. Sippin' with no remorse. We gon' do it again.